And we are live. Welcome everybody to Wednesday night. We only got a few people in here tonight, Eddie. And if they don't like you, they don't like me.
It's me.
Yeah, I don't know. He usually drags a little slow on Wednesday nights. A lot of people go to church and stuff like that. So we appreciate each and every one of you for coming in. We got Ernie Brown, Joe Buck, Carolina Catfish, the Bullock Experience. I was on his show the other night. Good show last night. I'm sorry, the other night. All my days run together. So, but God bless America. God bless each and every one of you and your families. And we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And catfish makes us pretty happy sometimes, don't they?
All the time, especially when they're biting good.
Yep. Well, I got a special guest with us tonight. He does a lot of fishing on Lake Wiley. Does a lot of fishing a lot of other places too, don't you?
Yeah.
I see you doing a lot of saltwater fishing.
Yeah.
So, but he chases the catfish, and if y'all see my post, he posted up some pretty good sized flatheads. We're gonna shoot the breeze here for a second until some more people jump in here and run in the lake. Wednesday nights is starting to get real slow for some reason. This dadgum computer. Sorry about that. Because I don't ever leave it turned on. Every time I turn the cotton picking thing on, it wants to restart and upload something new and whatever. But so while we get started, we're going to ask a couple of the basic questions everybody wants to know. Are you a mono or braid guy?
Mono, 100%.
Yeah, that's what I figured. You use the Andy line?
No.
You don't?
No. The Andy line. I'm not familiar with it. What's the Andy line?
Oh, Andy, mono? Oh, you put Andy on your reels, you will love it.
Oh, really?
ANDI.
Huh.
It feels real stiff, like it casts like silk, hardly any memory.
Yeah.
Very low stretch. You will love it.
Oh, wow.
You will love it. And you can get it. It's the Andy Monster. You can get it in the bright green or blue. I had blue. I got blue on some of my reels. But that blue line disappears. You can't see it.
Right.
It looks good on the reel and on the rod, but it
Yeah.
disappears. And Jeff Manning and Dieter and all the guys like that, they love it. That's what they use. And if it says 30 pounds, that line's going to break right at 30 pounds.
Oh, wow.
So you can depend on that.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of us like the Andy. The Andy Monster. It's when I first got it, I thought this line's stiff feeling. I don't know about it, but shoot, man, you can rocket a bait with that stuff.
Huh.
I like it because it don't have a lot of memory. And see, to me, it seemed like trilene's got worse and worse over the years.
Well, that's what I use is trilene.
Yeah, and we have for years the big game, and I still use the trilene big game for my leaders. Mm-hmm. But as far as my reels, I put the Andy Big Monster on it.
Yeah.
And you go to it, you'll love it because it, like I said, it hardly has memory.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
Try it out.
Yeah. So, but the cross couple. 12 gauge, avid fisherman. Palmetto's in the house. He's from down around the area you grew up in, down around Santee area. Yeah. Maurice Cason's in there, and Larry King. All right, now let's go ahead and go over some of your tackling stuff before we get rolling on the show too much. Your rods and reels and stuff like that.
Oh, it's Berkeley rods. The Abu Garcia or the Abu 6500 rockets. You know, I've got 6 of those set up at all times. I actually use 20-pound tests, not 30.
Right.
Never had a problem with fish getting off.
There you go.
50-pound shock leader.
Yep.
I fish the bottom a lot. 90% of the time I'm fishing the bottom.
Right.
With live bait or cut bait. Depends on what I catch that evening for bait.
Right. That yeah, I went back down. A buddy of mine sold me 4 of the 6500 C3s for $350.
Oh,
That's like brand new. They bought them. Well, he's the second owner of them. The guy never did use them.
Wow.
They bought them for carp fishing, never did use them but one time.
Yeah.
Couldn't get into it. But anyway, so I had the 6000s. So I put them on 10-foot rods for bank fishing. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to drop back down to 20-pound line on them. Yeah. And I probably, when I had to replace the lines on my others, I probably went back down too, because I'm mainly lake fish guys. But I'll leave a couple of them with 30 on there simply because I go into structure sometimes.
Right. Yeah. So that's me too. If I know I'm going into something heavy like that, I'll go up on the line weight too.
Yeah. And so that's the Berkeley Big Cat rods.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
can't go wrong with those.
No,
rods.
Justin, he just sold a bunch of them. He got the Big Cat fevers.
The price is right for me too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, we just bought 9 Big Cat fevers. Less than $50 a piece. They was used, but they weren't but a year old.
Yeah, that's right.
So we couldn't turn them down.
And if you break one, your feelings aren't hurt.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
It happens.
So that's what I'm talking. That's what we was talking about last night. Is keep your eyes open, go to the pawn shops and stuff, and you can get some good deals. And it's about this time of year people start running out of that tax money,
right,
and that Biden money,
right.
You start seeing that stuff show up at the pawn shop.
I was at Walmart yesterday and noticed all the TVs on the shelf. I'm like, oh, everybody's already running out of that free money.
That's money. What am I gonna have to do to y'all guys? I'm gonna have to break y'all from going to Walmart.
I knew I messed up as soon as I said Walmart.
Man, it's East End Walmart over here. If I go in there, come out, and I feel like I need to go home and take a shower.
You mean the West End?
Yeah, the West End. Yeah, I feel like I need to go home and take a shower.
Yeah.
But I won't support them. But that's another day. I ain't getting political on my show. But we got Muskrat in here, one over. Fishing to stand to, but he fishes up in the swamp areas. Up there in the shallows, catching big fish, but he will pull planer boards through those stump fields.
Oh, wow.
Now, he's the only person I know that'll do that.
Yeah.
But I guess he knows the stump field good enough that he can do that and get away with it. But he'll do something that I've never seen anybody else do. He'll pull big live baits behind the planer boards with no weight.
Oh, wow.
Those baits are on the surface. And he's got a video of a 50-pound cat grabbing that bait off the surface.
Oh, wow.
His daddy was sound asleep on the boat and scared him to death. Sound like an alligator coming in the boat with him.
Yeah.
So we'll get into some of the techniques here in a little bit. So what kind of boat and stuff you're fishing out of?
I've got a 22-foot Express Bay boat. Bought it 2 years ago. I'm super happy with that boat. It's a 150 Yamaha. I can run in a foot of water. So I can get down in some pretty shallow stuff. So
that's the boat y'all fished in during the tournament.
Yeah.
For those of you that come fish the tournament, he brought a very special guest with him to fish with us. Kyle Carpenter. That was a big honor. I thank you for that, Eddie. I cannot.
That was an honor for him to be on my boat, man. I was blown away.
Yeah. It was hopefully next year, now that the word's got out a little bit of what we done, we'll have a lot more veterans show up.
Sure.
We had a lot of people go out that didn't have no veteran on the boat with them, and they showed up empty-handed just for that. And but we'll get through that. Let's see, we got River Whiskers, Mike Greenwell. Now Mike does a little bit. He does a lot of river fishing and bumping. And that's some of the things I'd like to be able to try on Wiley when we get them flood waters and that water goes to rushing. You can probably do it for the first couple of days of them old lake catfish. They get lazy.
Yeah.
After about the second day of that rush of water, they hightail it to hiding water.
They're worn out.
Yeah, they worn out and ready to go lay their flat tails down somewhere. Who else? But yeah, he does that bumping, and it's basically walking that bait back down the current.
Mm-hmm.
And they're liable to have 200 yards of line out behind them.
Yeah.
Bumping that bait.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, I'd love to go run up there next to the dam.
Yeah.
And bump all the way back down through there using your trolling motor to control your drift.
Yeah. I see a lot of guys doing that in the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that would be neat to try on a lake when normally you can't do that on a lake.
Right.
Because you don't have the current. So you got the Yamaha on that boat. You like that Yamaha?
Yeah. I feel like it's bulletproof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I bought the
I
Go
feel like I
too.
stole it every time I drive it. So
That's why they was built.
Yeah.
Drive them hard. Drive them like you stole them.
That's right.
And Mr. Strawberry's in the house tonight.
What's up, Strawberry?
Yeah, Glenn. Tell Eddie not to give up on all those secrets.
I was going to tell him your secrets.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, we had a good show that night. We had about 85 people in here when Strawberry was down here. It was a good show, but it was during the wintertime. A lot of people at home and stuff. So, but Strawberry give up a few things. I like to question people where it makes people think. It makes people question. And I'll be drilling into you here in a few minutes on how to do some of that. That might even help you question some of the things you do as to why you do it. you got some big flatheads and you got some big blues under your belt. Let everybody know what your biggest flathead and your biggest blue is. If you don't mind, speak up a little bit.
Oh,
The speaker's right here.
I'd say 55 is probably my biggest flathead on wide. Actually, that's my personal best.
It's a big flathead.
Biggest blues probably around 30, 40 pounds.
Oh, you'll break that easy on Wiley. I'm surprised you hadn't done already.
Yeah, me either. This year's been really slow for me for some reason. I don't know why, but I need to change up my tactics, I guess.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to ask you. Do you think your tactics is more towards a flathead than it is a blue?
I don't know, because I've fished them the same way for both of them and done very well in the past years. And this year, for some reason, I just can't get on a big bite. Every fish I've caught's literally been 13 pounds this year. And I don't know what the hell I'm doing wrong.
That's crazy.
But I'm not fishing this much as much this year as I have in the past either. So been a little busy.
Brian Brake said, here's some secrets. We won't tell, he promises. We will. There's Art 1 ton. He was down there at the tournament. They was the guys that was bank fishing right there at the landing and
they
stuff.
caught a good one down there, didn't they?
The guy was on the other side, on the back side.
Okay.
Trying to get Art and them to go over there because that backside's a good spot, buddy. I've called. That's where my big blue come from. Was 20 foot off of that other side, that other bank. Yeah. I was in a boat, but you could have hit it with I was sitting on the bank.
Some of the biggest fish I've seen come out of Wiley's been right there at South Point.
Yes. So, just because you're a bank fisherman, guys, don't count it. I don't count yourself out. There's live from Catfish Weekly, fishing with Robbie. And Robbie's working on getting a tournament ready, and I was going to talk to you about that too. He come fish the tournament. He fished with Palmetto and them, the little boy. They caught the big fish. As a young man, I ain't going to call him a little boy, he's a young man. He's wanting to do a tournament October the 2nd, put out of South Point, and to raise money for type 1 diabetes.
Yeah.
And told him I'll help him out all I can do and stuff. So when he gets all the stuff wrote up, I'll let you know. Maybe we can get the word out and get a couple more people get some people involved with it.
Raise some money now.
So, that would be a big help to him. It's he has type 1 diabetes, and so it's really dear. And I got quite a few friends that said, "Hey, we on board. They got diabetes too." So they it touches home. So Robbie, we'd be glad to help you out, buddy. I see Justin Fishing Fish get hooked with Miss D. Now Miss D and Chad come in second place at the tournament.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So they was pulling up from the South Fork up at Mean Channel. And that's where they caught their big fish at.
Yeah.
So they done real good.
That's probably one of my favorite areas to fish in the Wiley areas of South Florida.
Right there in front of that island is produced some big fish.
Yeah.
Some of the biggest fish out of Wiley.
Yeah. Right
there in that area.
Yeah, I know you talked about this before, but you got to be careful going back in there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The South Fork is dangerous palmetto and got stuck during the tournament back there.
Yeah.
And had to get pulled back by Dade. Luckily, Dater was back in there and pulled them back. That stuff, that changes back through there. But, in drifting like that, I've caught a lot of fish at the mouth of the South Fork. But the mouth of the South Fork's got a lot of debris in it. Yeah. And you will lose your mess. And there's something that's real sharp down there. And I've come across it and cut 6 lines at one time. Dragging baits. All 6 lines went down. All 6 rods went down. And next thing you know, it's pop, 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 pop.
Oh, dang.
I lost it all. Lost all my rigs and had to just retie everything.
How long ago was this?
Probably about 2 years ago. Yeah, it's still in there. Yeah. I mean, it ain't going nowhere. We think it's a chunk of steel or something.
Yeah.
Because Dieter said, he's run into it, and Jeff and quite a few other people.
Well, we had that flood. Was it last year before last? Yeah. Where all that debris come down?
Yeah. Yeah, this is something that's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's down there pretty close to where the 2 channels actually come together.
Right.
It's in that area right in there.
Got reflection point on one side and stow property on the other.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. So what's some of the main things that you start looking for, say, this time of year? The spawn's on, it's getting ready to come off. If you was going out tonight, where would you go and how would you set up? Not specifically the name of a lake, the river or nothing, but how would you decide this is where I'm going to go set up first?
Well, I've got a few areas on Wiley. As soon as I bought that boat, I started just cruising the lake and just looking for structure under the water, old trees. I found an old boat, and I just see if there's bait on that structure.
Okay.
And I'll just set up right there.
Now, what kind of electronics are you using to do this searching with?
I've got a Helix 10.
A Helix 10. Okay.
Yeah.
Guys, can you hear us all right? Let us know. If not, we'll speak up a little bit. We kind of spread out here. Robbie's in there. I was trying to see if we had any questions. So you mainly structure fish.
Yeah.
You don't do any dragging like on channel edges or anything like that, flats?
No, I've got spots I use, and I throw the anchor out, one out the front, one out the back, and I stick right there I give it about an hour and a half. I don't have a bite there. I move on to the next structure and try it there. So,
That might be. Now, Big Blues will use structure too.
Yeah.
But if you're predominantly catching flatheads,
no, if I'm fishing for flats, I still do the same thing. I'll find I've got a couple banks I like to fish and a couple holes I like to fish, and I'll set up right there and I'll throw into 2, 3, 4 foot of water. And
I love that shallow water.
Yeah.
Love that shallow water. Jay Clemens is in the house. Sir Finn's just got a set of bobbers on. He should be getting them any day now. Structure fishing is a little bit different beast on the lake than it is on the river.
You get hung up, and you can lose a lot.
You can lose a lot. And if you're not losing it, you're probably not going to be catching fish, or you're going to be catching the dinks.
That's right.
How do you actually set up? Do you anchor up above it, drift down, and throw your baits off into it? Or do you anchor and drift over top of it and vertical fish? How are you setting up on it?
I try to set up right before, just a few feet downriver from the structure, where my scent, the baits, kind of just going into that structure, and hopefully they'll come out and gobble it up.
812 Cat Queen, that's probably her and her husband watching. Now, he uses the floats a lot. He catches flatheads. He's like you. He fishes structure. His mainly is rivers, but he likes that flood water, and he'll run up in places like the back of the South Fork is. And he'll actually bank fish off of them spots, set up in the trees. I don't know how he cast out of them daggum trees in there. They kill the big flatheads in them flooded waters.
Yeah.
So I got a couple people that own some property back there that the next time we get some flooding water, I want to go bait fish. I want to try some of the techniques that he uses on the river, because technically that's a river.
Yeah.
The back of the South Fork, that's a river.
Yeah.
It's always been a river.
Right.
So why not use some of those same techniques?
Yeah.
Do you ever fish any rivers besides you fish? I know you fish lakes around here.
Edisto River. Yeah, we fished Edisto River a good bit. That's just outside of Charleston. It's we fished that a lot. We catch a lot of big flatheads out of there. But we do a little different technique there. We do what's called limb lining on Edisto River. Go catch a bunch of brim and tie them onto the limb line right there. Set one side about 100 yards, 200 yards, and set the other side.
And we have, in the catfish world, there's peel and drag. In the catfish world, some people look down on limb lines or trout lines. And I always say, if it's legal, I ain't going to fuss about it, as long as you're releasing the bigger fish.
That's right. Yes.
There's a lot of families out there that use that to feed their families.
Well, and that's the thing in that area. Buddy of mine, Lee, he gives a lot of that fish away, and he feeds a lot of people.
Right.
So, and that's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But with that being said, we can learn a lot from a limb liner.
Right. That's kind of how I learned how to catch the big fish.
That's what I try to tell people. There's other videos out there. There's other ways of catching these fish.
Are going to be key for me this year.
That is, pay attention to. They fuss about the bow hunters, and I totally agree. But it's legal, so what can I say? Yeah. Until we get the laws changed, there's really nothing I can say. I don't like the big fish being shot, but I can't say nothing about it.
Right. Yeah.
As long as they're abiding by the law.
Right. And the thing is about the Edisto River, though, it's really hard to fish the bottom of that, because there's so many trees down that water, and it's damn near impossible.
Yeah, and if you can read your graph real good where you're talking about, and you can say, all right, the highest part of the top is, say, at 20 foot.
Mm-hmm.
And I can set that bobber at 18 foot.
Yes.
and let that bait run across back and forth across the top of them.
Right.
But you better be a bobber watcher.
Yeah.
Because as soon as he will drag your tail into it. You better, as soon as you see it go, you better put it on his tail. In that case, would you use circle hooks or would you use J hooks?
I always use circle hooks. Yeah.
But on something like that, using a float, knowing that you're going to have to turn that fish quick.
Yeah.
There's some hybrid hooks out there that's a kind of a combination of a J hook and a circle hook.
Right.
That I think would be good in that instant.
Yeah.
That, you got 2 foot. And that means if that bobber, as soon as he starts down with it, you better be able to put him in there.
Right.
With a normal circle hook, you might pull it out of his mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
But with a J hook or a hybrid, you might be able to stick him.
Right.
Because that guy, Spencer, he loves flatheads, and chasing big flatheads, he only used J hooks. He believes in partner eyes.
Yeah.
And I miss doing that. We grew up partner eyes. Yeah. And I miss setting the hooks. Don't get me wrong, I'm lazy too, and I like to look around that rod bait doubled over and it's already set for me.
Right.
But at the same time, I grew up years ago on a carp bank. Mm-hmm. You grab it and you run halfway up the bank with it.
Right.
You don't have to do it now. We got little small circle hooks. So, but it's
and that's the thing with circle hooks, man. I feel like with J hooks, you got a better chance of them swallowing the bait and it getting down their gullet, and really it's going to kill them in the long run.
That's why I use Kell hook. Kell hook is kind of a hybrid J hook. A hybrid hook, because it's actually the way the bend comes back in it. It's almost like a circle hook. I use Kell hooks a lot with live bait over the years. And I learned about them actually throwing big giant shiners for largemouth bass.
Yeah.
And I caught a lot of catfish doing that.
Right.
But it would I noticed that you would have a lot more hookups into the corner of the mouth with a Kell hook than you did with a J hook.
Right.
And I don't know if it's because of the way it turned when the fish hit it or what it was. But now, what kind of hooks you use? I use Gammas.
Yeah, I use Gammas.
Okay. Yeah. You ever had any problem with any of them breaking?
Never.
I've had so many people said, "Oh, I broke them." And
you use an 8/0, 9/0?
Yeah, I use 8/0s, and I've got a couple 10s. Justin bought a pack of the 12s. It's some good looking hooks, but buddy, they reach deep in your wallet when you step up to that size. But they some good looking hooks. They're a little bit thicker. That's why I like the thinner Gammas. I do. I mean, you can get a pack of 20 for practically nothing.
Yeah.
At your local stores, when you're paying attention. Let's see. J hooks are good when you're paying attention, not surfing the web on your phone. Yep, just saying. That's it.
Gotta put your phone down.
Yeah, that's it. And fish has changed over the years, and we set so many times, and you watch for any nibble. You was ready to set that hook because you didn't want to throw hook him. Postpone our next phase in reservoirs and rivers. Where are the blues and flatheads going to go post-spawn?
Man,
I'm gonna give my opinion on that, and I'll let you go from there. Right after the spawn, look for mussel beds.
Yeah,
that's easy food.
Yeah,
they're hungry. They're gonna fill their gullet full.
Yeah,
and if I notice in the middle of the summer, you catch them big blues, and their bellies will be slammed full of mussel.
Yeah, North Carolina Sandbar is a good area.
Yeah.
South Carolina Sandbar is another good area. All the marinas on the lake.
Yeah.
Great areas. Giving you all my stocks.
Anyway. And you just trying to generalize it as, across, if he was going to be down there on that river.
Yeah.
Where would you go for summertime blues? Well, do you catch blues down there or just mainly flats?
Yeah, blues. I catch a lot of blues. But I'm fishing ledges, drop offs. I'm fishing drop offs. In a few weeks, that's where I'll be.
There you go.
Right along just before the North Carolina Sandbar on the left hand side. Nice drop off right there. I always do really well in that area.
You pick up some good channels through there too.
Yeah.
I picked up a couple good channels coming down through there. And which amazed me because Well, I mean, it wasn't 6 or 7 pounds, and that ain't really a good channel to some of these lakes. But on Lake Wiley now, that's still a good channel.
Yeah.
Now, you ever fish any of the long points and stuff off Wiley?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you recommend? I mean, I know of a couple points that's got a heck of a mussel bed on the end of it.
Yeah, there's one really good one just past the Buster Boyd Bridge, and everybody knows this house got the terracotta roof on it right there. I can't remember the name of the creek that runs back in there, but that point right there has been jammed up.
Yeah, Catawba Creek.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about that's the one that's got terracotta.
It's across from Crowder's Creek on the other side of Crowder's Creek.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't think of the name of that one.
Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking about the one that's on up right there at Mills Creek.
No, it's up on the other side.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The big clay one on the left.
Yes. Yeah.
That's where we catch perch and stuff.
Yeah.
But
it goes back into the Palisades.
Got you. And Clearview's asking about river fish. What's the circle? But I like the hybrid hooks. Yeah, that's something I'm gonna have to give me some of those hybrid hooks and check them out, because they say that you can actually set them just like you'd set a J hook.
Right.
You know, so if you get somebody on the boat that's
who is asking about these hooks? Where's he buying them? Can he pick them up from Academy or Bass Pro?
You probably had to go online. I got a couple guys. Y'all message me and let me know some of the brands of these hybrid hooks, and I'll pass it along to him. Or you can put it in chat, please. It's hard to catch all the questions. Party continues. Country Boy catfishing. Yeah, tonight at 9 after my show, Country Boy comes on. How can I find the mussel beds from the bank? Robbie, that's going to be a tough one. If you pull in and you got a stick in your line and it's got mussels stuck to it.
I'll get in the water and walk around and find them with my feet. I mean,
look on the shore too.
Yeah.
If you start seeing if you see a shoreline that's lined with these mussel shells,
they're right there.
They're close. They're very, very close. I pulled up a lot of wood, and a lot of wood you might not see too many on there, but if you take and look real close, there'll be some tiny ones stuck to it. And that means you're right there in the vicinity, because that's them babies growing on that wood. So mussel beds are good. And that's another thing. Dieter uses chicken a lot.
You know, I've tried chicken here the past couple times. There's a fella that's just met him on Facebook recently, Matthew Goodell or whatever. I know he uses a lot of chicken. And there's a fella down at the marina that's using chicken, and they're mixing up, strawberry jelly with it or whatever. I've tried it. Haven't been very successful. I've caught several small catfish. Right. I know these guys are catching big catfish with it, but
I think it's probably the prime time is going to be when you start seeing mussels floating on the water. Mm-hmm. When they're headed to the mussel beds to fill up their bellies, you're either right before spawn or right after spawn when they're putting that stuff in their bellies. Yeah. Would probably be the best time to use small chunks about the size of what them mussels would be.
Right.
And you would probably wear them out. But I mean, that's just my opinion on it. Because I don't think the strawberry flavor stuff lasts long.
No.
Not in the water. I think once it's in the water a few minutes, that stuff's got to get going.
I think the water temperatures right now is like at 85 or 88 degrees or something. With it being that warm, it's going to come off.
Yeah, it's going to come off. And see, back in the day, and we talked about a second ago, back in the day on Wiley when it wasn't up but channels, when it got hot, we put out the tubs of stink bait.
Yeah.
The hotter the water, the stinkier it was.
That's all I use when I moved to this area. Stink baits. I figured out the big flatheads were here.
The catfish Charlie blood bait was the best bait I found on Wiley. But I'm gonna tell you, a fish that would eat that stuff. Not a cat. That was besides the catfish. Them yellow perch.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna say perch. Yeah.
Them yellow perch would have hit that stuff.
Yeah.
And you can tell because we'd use the treble hooks. And you come in, and there'd be a chunk of it bit out in between the prongs.
Right.
And every once in a while, you'd catch one of them little yellow rascals.
Yeah.
So guys that love chasing them perch, get you some blood bait from Catfish Charlie and try it because they will hit it.
The perch are stacked up in South Fork right now, right across from the marina.
Yeah, the white perch.
Yeah. They're all over the place.
So what is your favorite bait when you're chasing the flathead, say this time of year?
Bluegill.
Bluegill.
Yep.
I figured that's what you was going to say.
Bait. Yep.
Somebody's
making jokes about using bluegill at the fish tournament. I was like, what's wrong with using bluegill? I catch my biggest fish off a bluegill.
That largemouth bass.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, my largest flathead come up to the steam plant on a largemouth bass head. About that is about a 2.5 pound largemouth.
Yeah.
Boom, my head come off there, and I double hooked that rascal, and I put him about this far off the bank, about 2.5 foot off the bank up at the steam plant.
Yeah.
It wasn't there 45 minutes, and it headed for the lake.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And she was 37 pounds. That's my largest flathead. But it ain't that 50 like you got, but it very well could have been. Right in that area, right against that bank, guys. Just because you're a bank fisherman, don't mean you need to throw for the middle of the lake.
Not at all.
You better be tossing that sucker right off the bank and stepping back away from the bank.
Right. That's right. They're right there on you.
Yeah, right there under you. And I mean, last January, I caught that 34 pound blue 15 foot off the bank right there at South Point Boat Landing.
Yeah.
15 foot. I pitched one right out there in the water.
That reminds me of something Strawberry told me not too long ago. When the water temperature's up like it is or gets even warmer, the oxygen almost gets depleted out of the water. And that's why they're on the bank, because the boats coming by and the current or whatever, stirring it up. And they're there on the bank so they can breathe, literally.
Because 2 years ago with Jeff Manning's that Grand Slam tournament, Wampus Cat and Richard Warskall, they was on two separate boats, but they was fishing in waters that was 100 degrees.
Yeah.
100 degrees. I thought, they ain't going to be no fish in that water. It's too hot.
Right. They're not going to want to move.
They was killing the freaking fish.
Yeah, on the banks.
On the banks.
Yeah, right.
Killing them.
Yep.
Wearing them out.
Yep.
Now, they didn't win the tournament, but they was on the fish.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Right. And that's another thing, determining where I'm going to fish. The water temperature makes a huge factor of where I'm going to fish. So
Crappie's a good bait too, buddy.
Oh yeah, crappie's good. Perch is good.
Now let's rephrase that. In the state of North Carolina, we can use game fish legally as long as it's caught with hook and line. South Carolina, they'll bust your tail.
Yeah.
They'll bust your tail. So make sure that it's legal in your waters when you decide to use a game fish. I'm a firm believer, if it's on the bed spawning, that's what I'm throwing.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what I'm throwing.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that brim you're not going to find a daggone bunch of brim on the bed right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like they're bred a little later this year
for
some reason.
Everything seems like it's going later for some reason. Usually the blues have done come off by this time.
Right.
And people are still having trouble finding them. They're still wearing the flatheads out. And I've seen the pictures of the flatheads, and they're not even scarred up yet. Right. They're not even fighting yet.
Right.
Oh, that's weird.
I don't know what's going on.
But the water temperature's up.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
So, who knows?
It's been a weird year.
Yeah. Eddie Gross. I missed his comment. There it is. Don't forget to hit. Oh, appreciate that, buddy. If for somebody new that's coming, let's say to Lake Wiley, that's a lake that we both know pretty good. If you're there on the boat, what was some of the best advice you could give them for summertime fishing? One thing I know, nighttime.
Well,
for crowd control for one thing, yeah.
Right. Find some bait. What's the first thing I do is I go to a dock that's got some lights on it, I'll throw a cast net on it, catch me some bait. Yep. And just anchor down or drift in certain areas. And if that spot doesn't produce, move on to another spot. You may not have to move far, maybe 50 yards the other direction, or
That's what I was getting ready to ask you. When you set up, you said you give it an hour and a half, and then you move. That don't necessarily move you jump and pull and run all the way down the lake, right?
No, not at all. Yeah, I might move 50 yards, might move 100 yards. I might move to the opposite side of the river, the lake right there. Just depends. I've got about 13 or 14 good spots that's always produced for me that I'll work in a pretty small area from basically the North Carolina Sandbar up to the South Fork that I fish. So I'm not moving far at all. So
what made you choose those spots originally to begin with?
Just finding stuff on the graph. Just finding stuff on the graph and fishing them and catching fish on them.
Do you use Navionics any?
No. Yeah.
So you specifically watch that graph and learn the lake itself
Well, yeah, I'll
through
take
your
that
graph.
back. I do. I've got spots marked on my graph. So yeah.
So because Wampus Cat, he studies that navionics because you can zoom in. Your navionics on your phone is a lot better than what's going to be on your fish finder.
Right.
It really is. It's a lot more detailed.
Right.
So he will study that at home on the computer and stuff through the mobile app instead of the computer app, through the mobile app.
Right.
And it'll get into a lot more details. And he's told me that on some of the river channels, on the one that's in his helix, the river channel's straight. But on that mobile app, if you look at it real close, there's a dip right there. And he's caught good fish in that little bitty irregular and that river channel. That is something that he likes to search for, is those irregulars, either to drag bait across or to set up lake from them and drift baits back into them.
Yes. Yep.
Is that something that you look for or you would do?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I don't drift fish much, but when I do, that's what I do.
Right. Because drift fishing can be very productive. But now, if you was going out by yourself, do you go strictly head hunting?
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
And that's what me and Wampus Cat, if me and him gets on the boat together, or if he goes by himself or I go by myself, we expect to catch one fish.
Right.
Or none.
Right.
One or none.
Right.
Now, if I got people on the boat, we're going to put fish in the boat, of course.
Right.
I want them to catch fish. And you hope that you get a big.
Well, that's the thing too. If you've got people on the boat that's never caught fish, whatever, I'll trim my bait size down a little bit.
Right.
But if I'm going for the bigger ones, I'm using the bigger bait.
Yeah. And there's different techniques that you can use that you can almost guarantee to catch. I've got holes on the South Fork. You can go to the mouth of the South Fork and you can put out chicken livers, or you can put out any kind of bait, worms and stuff like that, and you catch fish all day long. Yeah. You can. The catfish are there.
Yeah.
It's going to be the smaller dink fish or whatever. If I want to go to get a mess of eaters, I go set at the mouth of the South Fork. You set off that point right there, and you can put eaters in the boat all day long.
That's right. Yeah.
But I'm head hunting.
That's another thing. If I'm looking for eaters, I'm using shrimp.
Right.
And I'll catch 8 to 10 pound blues off of shrimp all day long.
Yes. Shrimp is an overlooked.
My dad got me into catfishing, a long time ago, and that's one thing. That's really the only bait he ever brought me was shrimp. That it's worked for me for years.
It seemed, excuse me. Oh, this is 3:30 this morning. Sorry. It seemed to me that the shrimp done better during a spawn of another fish. If there was a fish spawning like the crappie, it seemed like that daggone shrimp was the name of the game.
Yeah.
And I always thought, why? And then the summertime, you go to the stink baits and stuff, and I got thinking, well, hotter water, everything gets real pungent real fast. I look into reasons why they're chasing certain baits. I know there's people that uses the white perch year round on Wiley. It's abundant. It's probably one of the most abundant bait fish on Wiley.
Unfortunately, yeah.
That's because we don't have striper in that lake.
Right.
Because if you go to Mountain Island, they got white perch.
Yeah.
But it's not like they come on Wiley.
Right.
If you go south, same thing. Go to these other lakes. What's the difference? Striper, hybrids. Another fish that can keep a control of them fish. But there's times when the crappie will outfish the perch. There's times when largemouth bass and brim will outfish that perch.
That's another thing. So, I'm throwing out, 6, sometimes 8 rods. If I've got some crappie in the live well, I've got some brim in the live well and perch.
Right.
I'll split them up. I'll put 2 perch over here, 2 brim over here, 2 crappie on this one back here, and whatever they're hitting, that's what I'm going with for the night.
Now, with that being said, all right, they start hitting the brim. Will you put brim where them perch were at?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And to make sure it wasn't just location.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
Because a lot of times it's location, not just necessarily the bait.
Right.
Because there's certain times of the year, springtime, going into the spawn, it don't matter what you throw, they gonna eat. They gonna eat.
That's right.
And I think there's other times that they get picky. Once their bellies start getting full and they got plenty of food around, then this starts getting more specific of what bait you putting on their heads.
Right.
Would you agree?
I think, yeah. And post spawn, I don't think it really matters either.
No.
You know, yeah. But,
They hungry.
Yeah.
They hungry.
Yeah.
They beat up. They hungry.
Right.
They want to get their belly full and rest.
That's right.
That's why I'm thinking, you know, around mussel beds, especially for the eater size of the real good spawning fish, would probably mussel beds would be a hot ticket for somebody that's looking. And you can actually drop anchor and you'll see them on your anchors. You pull your anchors up and you can see them mussel stinking. You can smell it.
Right.
That mud, it's on your anchors. If it stinks, you close to a mussel bed.
Right.
Look at around the mouths of your bigger rivers and stuff coming into your lakes for your mussel beds. Now, I can't comment about mussel beds on the rivers because I've never really fished any rivers. To me, it would be slack water areas,
right,
where debris sets up and it's more likely to silts in. Seems like the mussel beds are where it silts real easy.
Right.
Because I know where there's a mussel bed on Wiley. And I'm getting ready to tell a secret, but I'm not going to tell a secret. I was doing something, looking for something, and that mussel bed is at least 15 foot thick. And it's been there for years because the stuff that come out of the bottom of that thing made me gag and throw up. It covered my boat and made a mess. It was putrid. It was nasty. But it let me know that mussel bed had been there a long time. And I looked at my graph and I looked at Navionics. Navionics will actually give you what the river channel really is, not what the silt base is. And Navionics said 37 foot. My graph said
34.
No, like 24.
Oh, shit.
Rest of that was mussel bed.
Oh, wow. That's pretty thick.
And it was at the mouth of a big river, I'll just say that. And the reason I was there was actually looking for gold.
Yeah. Huh.
And when I sucked that stuff up, there's 20 foot of pipe still standing up in the bottom of Wiley. I'll just say that.
Wow.
It sucked it out of my hand and sucked it right down into it. I couldn't get it out.
Yeah.
And it's way below even if Wiley drops. I mean, it's 30 foot below the water. So there's my stuff pulled loose from it. So it's nowhere anybody could ever hit it or nothing.
Yeah.
Now you might hang a line up on it once in a while coming down through there, but you know, it is what it is. So any other secrets that you might want to give away on some techniques or things that you use that you do a little bit different?
No, I mean, I think you covered a lot of stuff. One thing I do like to talk about is how we handle the catfish to keep the catfish alive.
There you go.
Because I've messed up. I've done it more than once. Handling these catfish, you know, grabbing them by the gills, you know, that's a major no-no. Don't do that. You know, I've caught some really big flatheads, and the next morning or 2 or 3 days later, it starts stinking. I see buzzards picking on them on the bank. And it wasn't until recently I learned of my mistake and what I was doing wrong. So, you know, just basically get you some fish grippers and, you know, grab them fish by the top of the jaw if you can, not the bottom of the jaw, and, you know, just hug them and just don't put your hands in their gills.
Yeah, I don't like seeing people weigh fish over 10 pounds with those jaw things. I don't mind seeing people use the grippers to control the fish.
Right.
Because some of them we get in the boat a little bit fast, they green, and that son of a guns is going to fight, and you're going to drop them or whatever. I would rather see you handle them than drop them.
Right.
Because that fish is usually buoyant, and you hit his tail on that water, on that floor. I just wonder how much damage we do with that. I see fish getting dropped, and that just tears me out of the frame. Guys, I'm not a tree hugger. I am, but I'm not.
Right.
This is God's earth. This is earth that we only have one of. And we have to take care of it because we've learned from the past. We've polluted our waters in the past. And it takes us to produce good, clean waters, good, clean fish for our children and our grandchildren. And that's what we need to work on. And if we're educate somebody, like you just said, teaching somebody that don't stick your hands up in the gills to hold them. Hold them by their pectoral fins,
right.
or grab them by the mouth and hold them underneath the tail. However you need to do it. Take you some gloves. Get you some of the mechanics gloves.
Definitely get some gloves.
Yeah, definitely get some gloves. Because them big flatheads, tell them what you learn about a flathead's mouth.
Oh, they've got some sharp teeth in there now.
They
point straight back. You got to put your hand in there. They will get your fingers. They will slice you open.
Yeah, so
like we said earlier, they'll be there for a couple weeks.
Yeah, and it seems like there's a bacteria on that flathead that's not on that blue.
Yeah.
Now, let's drag a secret or two out of you. Boat docks, old boat docks. Do you think there's some resident fish? I asked a lot of people this question. Do you think that older fish start setting up a residence there?
I do, because I've caught a few flatheads that I'm pretty sure are the same fish in the same spot, in several different years. But I actually like to find houseboats that don't move and sit in the same spot and fish underneath those and catch some of the same flatheads over and over.
Because there's quite a few of them on Wiley, ain't there? They just sit there. They just sit there and never move.
And if you are paying attention, you know the area I fish and figure out what marina I'm talking about.
But there's quite a few of them up down through there.
Yeah.
There's one on up north that I never paid no attention to.
The Commodore Yacht Club's got several houseboats that just sit there, and that's a really, really, really good area to fish.
So it's very protected for them. There's always brim and bass and crappie and stuff around those areas. Yes.
Yeah, right.
So plenty of bait, plenty of structure. Guys, fish don't think like humans do.
Right.
Fish fool around and eat. I mean, they want to eat. They want to fool around and spawn and have babies. And they want to be safe.
Right.
That's what Mother Nature wants.
Yeah.
To reproduce, to eat, and survive.
Yeah.
Locate the food. If you find a spot that's got water that's going to support them year round, as far as water temperatures, the bait's always there. I believe I'd set my fat tail right there and just eat.
He's not going to move far.
Yeah, he's not going to move far. He don't need to, right? You said he don't need to, as long as he's got protection. And once the catfish gets 50-pound plus, he ain't worried about nothing else in the water.
No.
Ain't nothing else going to mess with him.
No, he's the boss of that area.
Yeah, he's the boss. Yeah. He's the boss. Unless it's a bigger catfish, he's the boss.
Right.
Now, you get down around Alligator Gar area, now that might be a different story, but around here and most of the lakes, we don't have that big a predator that can run them off. So I think they set up a residence. But hey, we still got 11 minutes. I'm trying to think of something that I can drag out of you about that resident fish.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you talked about this before, making sure we're letting the bigger fish go. And if you want to keep fish, keep the smaller fish, because the bigger fish put out a lot more eggs than the smaller fish do.
Right.
And, just help us with quality and quantity of the fish on the river.
Right. And, it's like we talked last night, too, and we talked on Catfish Weekly, is that we also believe in selective harvesting. You can overstock a pond. You can overstock a lake.
Right.
And then you start producing smaller and smaller fish. Yes, they will. So take some of those fish home. And if you gut hook one of those big fish and you worry about it, instead of throwing it back, take it home and make a meal out of it.
That's right.
It's going to happen. And, you're going to accidentally do something. If you see that fish really struggling, most of the time, if he's struggling real bad, you're not going to save him.
Right.
He's not going to make it.
Right.
Take him home. Make a turd out of him. So, I mean, really, there's no use to let the fish go to waste.
Oh, God. Okay. So,
well, I got that from little boy up years ago. We stopped off buying the I-85 bridge. They would go check it out. we pulled over on side 85 and walked down. Kid and his grandpa and his daddy was down there fishing. And that was the biggest shell cracker I ever seen. Eddie, his daddy had to bend that fish to drop it into a 5-gallon bucket.
Yeah.
A 5-gallon bucket.
Yeah.
That fish was wider than the top of a 5-gallon bucket.
Yeah, I've seen them like that, man. I grew up down in Santee. That fella that's on here now,
Jeff Coat.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard the season down there this year wasn't all that great. They didn't catch a whole lot of them.
They had so much flooding water through there they couldn't set up and catch them in the canal like they wanted to.
Right. There's a few caught, but not like year before and before that.
All I had was $20 to my name that day. I offered that young man, I said, I'll give you $20 for that fish and my fishing pole. All I had was I go make a turd out of it. I thought, oh my, that's where I got the turd thing from. I said, man, this record-sized fish is getting ready to become a turd. I thought, son of a gun, you're killing me. Because that would have been a wall hanger.
Yeah, for sure.
For to bend it to get it into a 5-gallon bucket.
Yeah.
He was every bit over 5 pound fish. Yeah. And for shell cracker, that's probably close to a world record.
Yeah.
I don't know what the world record is. It's a little over 5 pounds, I think. I don't think it's quite 6.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
it's big.
Yeah, it's a turd down.
Not the fillet. Might be a couple turds.
Yeah, that would have made a heck of a meal, son.
Days.
We got a pond over here. We catch some blue. We used to be able to. You can't fish it no more. Right off 321, right there between the mills, Paintney Mills. The end of that road down there, there's a big old pond out there. Davis Part ain't but 8 foot. It's very shallow.
Oh wow!
It's got them big hybrid bluegill. I'm talking about dinner-sized plate bluegill.
Oh wow!
And I've caught 2 bass out of there over 10 pounds.
Yeah.
Big fish lake, but you can't get in there now.
Yeah.
And since the city took all that in, it might be drained by now. I don't know. If it is, it'd be a shame.
Right back there and check it out.
Yeah, well, you can't. You can't even see it from the gate. Up there where you stop at the gate, you can't even see the pond. So, hey, I appreciate you joining us in here tonight.
If anybody wants to go fishing with me, just hit me up. Just find me on Facebook, Eddie Scaff. I love taking people fishing. I actually enjoy watching people catch fish.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. Go out and catch bait before we fish, and I'll take anybody and everybody. Whoever wants to go, just hit me up. I'll take you out.
The fresher the bait, the better, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I like catching bait the day of. Sometimes it's a struggle.
Yeah, well, a lot of times that's more fun than catching the fish.
Oh yeah, people, if you're not living in water that you can get them skipjack, a lot of times they can get them skipjack about like we catch a perch.
Right.
But if you got them perch or skipjack or a fish like that you can catch on some biggies, if you drop it down, catching 5 and 6 at a time, that's a blast.
Yeah.
Perch jerking, that's why we call them perch jerking. Is a blast. It's fun, especially for kids.
Yeah.
Oh God, you take kids out and they get tickled to death. You put some biggies on them and they catching 5 and 6 at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you got to be careful. Them little biggies got some sharp freaking hooks, man.
And a lot of them.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Yeah.
I got one hung up in the back of my truck one day. Got a rod. They got tangled up and was going Wampus Cap down in South Carolina, down in Big Allison.
Mm-hmm.
And I climbed up in the back of my freaking truck to get it disconnected off the front up there. And when that rod popped loose, it done like it stuck 5 of them hooks down my back.
Yeah.
Try to climb out of the back of a truck with a camper shell on it with 5 hooks down your freaking back, man. I finally had to take the shirt off and just rip holes in the shirt all the way down to get it out. But yeah, bait fishing is fun. And I'm like you. I like good, fresh bait. I think the fresher, the better.
That's the first thing we do. I mean, we get out and we catch fresh bait I like to get out right before the sun goes down, wait for those dock lights to come on and throw the cast net or catch them on rod and reel, whatever we got to do.
So do you mainly night fish?
Yeah. I don't day fish. I'm hardly ever. Yeah. I'm fishing from 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, or till the sun comes up.
You get older, that'll change.
Nah, never.
Oh, I'm a day person. I'm a morning person. I mean, but catfish, we've always had that stigma, catfish and night fishing. You had to fish at night, but you don't. I mean, you don't. You can catch it all, I think it's more time driven during the day.
Right.
I really do. I think there's peak times during the day. Not to say that you can't catch them in between there.
Well, there's a lot more boats on the water during
Yes.
the day, and then you got those damn wake boats out there just messing everything up. You know, so that's mainly why I like to fish at night. Plus, I've just been more successful at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish they'd outlaw them wake boats.
Yeah, you do.
I think sooner or later Duke Power will say, man, it's got to stop.
They've got to do something, man. They've got to do something.
Well, look at the shorelines. It's destroying the
Yeah.
shorelines. I mean,
Right.
not counting pissing the people off in the boats.
Well, I mean, I hang out the marina a lot, man. Those things coming down there, they're just racking boats and they're just slapping across everything,
Yeah.
just tearing the docks up. I mean, it's ridiculous. They pay no attention to the no wake zones.
Oh, no. No. And that weight travels a long way across that water.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And it beats them shores up. And when people, them $1 million houses start having to replace that rock on their shores all the time,
Right. Yeah.
some will get done.
Right.
But it's going to take the big money to get it done.
Yep.
They don't listen to me and you. They sure don't.
Yeah.
But that's but for new fishermen on a lake, is just the main thing is to just go out and try it.
Just go out and do it. Yeah.
Go out
Just
and do it.
Yeah.
The lakes has got fish in it, catfish in it. And the name of the game is just enjoy what you've got. And who knows? You'd all be sitting there at the right place at the right time, and that big one comes swimming by and stretch your string for you.
I don't think there's a bad place to bank fish on Wiley. I
No.
really don't. I mean, I've bank fished all around that lake, and I've caught fish everywhere I bank fished.
I think there's certain times of the year where the sun's better than the
Oh,
others.
yeah. Right.
And then there's some places that you can tell if it's a real good area at the time of year when the bank is full of people. It's a hot area.
Right.
There's something running in that area.
Right.
And most of the time it's usually the bait fish.
Yeah.
The white perch, that's when usually you see the banks pile full of people wherever the perch is.
Yeah.
You go to the dam, there'll be 10,000 people up there,
Right.
shoulder to shoulder, them white perches
Right.
running in there.
Right. Just like saltwater fishing or fishing the beach.
Yeah,
Just-
yeah.
It's the same thing.
And see, it used to be like that when Wiley had the white bass. And I don't know if it's before your time, probably.
About 20 years ago, I think they started dying off. And that's about when I moved.
That
to
was
this
the
area.
perch. That's when I don't know when they released the perch into that water, but it wasn't nothing to catch 2 or 3, 4 pound white bass in there.
Wow.
And you go down around the Seven Oaks Bridge,
Mhm.
you used to have to park on the South Carolina side and walk over to the North Carolina side and walk underneath the bridge. And I used to wade fish out there.
Right.
And them white bass and largemouth would pile them shad up because it narrows down right there at that bridge.
Right. Bottlenecks. Right.
And bottlenecks right there, man. And they'd ball them shad up, and we would have a blast. Take ultralights down there,
Yeah.
catch them big old white bass.
Yeah.
That was a blast.
Yeah.
And I miss fishing like that. It's guys, don't knock bank fishing. Don't ever knock a bank fisherman, because I've had a lot better days off the bank than I have on boats.
Yeah.
I've had good days on the boats.
Yeah.
But there's been times when you was there at the right time.
Yeah. I still bank fish.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'll go to South Point and bank fish, for several hours at a time.
Yo, God, yeah. It's fun. To me, it's nostalgic.
Yeah.
Some days of Daddy and Grandpa sitting on the bank,
Right.
little old campfire
Sure.
going, and just you hoped they'd be it, but you didn't care if they did or they didn't.
That's right.
So I like the nostalgic part of it. But, Eddie, I thank you for coming in with us.
Thank you for having me.
It's a great one, and a lot of good information.
Yeah.
Mainly about some of the local lakes around here. And I know a lot of guys is from out west, but what information that you learn from here can be used in other places.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
So get out there, try it in your home waters, throw the bait in the water, and get your string stretched. That's what it's all about, and enjoy what the good Lord's blessed us with.
Amen.
Guys and gals, we appreciate you coming in. We appreciate your support. God bless you. God bless your families. And we'll see y'all next Monday night on Catfish Week. We're going to have fishing stuff. Keith's going to be on there for the first time doing a live show with us.
Yeah,
So,
next week.
next week on Catfish Week. Good night, everybody. Take care.